In Unzipped, we meet fashion designer Isaac Mizrahi in 1994. His recent fashion show was critically panned, so he's recovering from that and getting ready for 1995's fashion show. Isaac is meeting up with different models and different fashion critics and editors of different magazines and trying to find a style or a trend for that current year's fashion show. Unzipped is directed by Douglas Keeve, and since Unzipped came out in 1995, he's only directed 2 documentaries that are also related in fashion: Seamless and Naomi Conquers Africa. Unzipped just debuted at the Sundance Film Festival 2025 in a new digitally restored print. Unzipped feels like a time capsule for the mid-90s, not just because this film came out in the 90s, and because this fashion show is set in the mid-90s, but I think watching this film now would feel like a different experience than I did in the mid-90s, because it's the first time I've seen the film, but documentaries were a lot different in the mid-90s, and watching this film that was set in the mid-90s, we meet a lot of the models that were very famous in the mid-90s, like Naomi Campbell and Crawford, and just watching Isaac interact with these models, it feels like going back in time. And documentaries didn't really have their renaissance until maybe the early 2000s, when documentarians like Errol Morris and Michael Moore made the form more popular and box office hits. And so Unzipped really feels like a documentary from the 90s or 80s. There's no narration, it's just an eye on the wall documentary. There's no frills documentary. It's technically sound but not flashy. The fashion designer Isaac, he really comes across very likable. He interacts with all the models. Everybody respects him in the movie. He interacts with the models, magazine editors, friends, everybody really respects him. He comes across very relatable. He's not really pretentious, or he doesn't look down on everybody. He just kind of like works with everybody. He seems to have like a photographic memory of like fashion in different old movies. He can quote movies. He can quote what actresses were wearing, like Betty Davis, and what they were wearing in certain movies and what they said, and he can recall those memories. And when he's trying to come up with fashion for his shows, it was interesting to see him interact with all of these supermodels. He spends his spare time with these models. They all respect him. They all relate to him. I've heard people say this documentary is the best documentary ever about fashion, but I'm interested why they say that, because this film doesn't really explore the process of Isaac preparing his fashion show. It's just a fly-on-the-wall documentary on him, like interacting with people. It doesn't really show a lot about him getting ready for the show. And the film is just 1 hour and 10 minutes, so I really think there is probably an opportunity for there to be a documentary on fashion that is more in depth and gets more access to everyday life. But maybe in the mid-90s, maybe that supermodel craze in like Cindy Crawford and those supermodels were huge. They were worldwide names. Everybody knew who they were. So at the moment, fashion is really not really like that. So I guess this documentary doesn't really capture those huge models like Naomi Campbell, who were household names back then. So I guess that's why people call this such a good documentary. But at the moment, you can't really name supermodels at the moment, so that everybody knows. So I guess in that respect, this documentary doesn't really capture that mid-90s feel. But for me, I really wish there was more meat on the bone in this film. I really wish we saw more of the process. I wouldn't mind if it was longer, because Isaac is such an engaging engaging person, so I wouldn't mind seeing more of the process. I give Unzipped 3.5 stars out of 5. This really is a time capsule on the early 90s, not just the fashion world, but documentaries, how this documentary was made. It's much different to documentaries we see now. It's much more bare bones and much less flashy, so it was interesting to see what a documentary was like in the mid-90s. And Isaac is such a engaging presence. He's not pretentious, he's very engaging and likable, he's relatable, so it was interesting to see his process. I recommend checking out Unzipped. Thanks for watching. What did you think of Unzipped? Please comment below what you thought of the film. Thanks for watching. Bye.